Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast podcast, a YouTube video interview program that features me talking to some of the best and brightest in the atheist slash secular slash awesome community. This is episode number 133, and I'm recording live on February 25th, 2018. It's Sunday afternoon, so I have a cat in my lap, and my wife's making hummus downstairs, so you probably can hear all that good stuff. Anyway, thanks to the Ginger Snaps, Amy and Nadia, for coming on and letting me know that the trans agenda is actually Dungeons & Dragons. Spoiler alert. So today I have on a special guest returning for the second time, probably was on almost exactly a year ago. Patrick Horst came on episode 86 to talk about his Mennonite missionary background, and of course the 2017 edition of the Nashville Nuns Conference. That's Nun with an O. On March 17th, 2018, there will be the third annual Nashville Nuns Convention in Nashville. Shocker there. There will be a plethora of speakers and attendees, and this guy will be moderating a podcast panel. This guy, me. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here, man. Thanks for having me on.
So last, we heard from you. You were a former Mennonite who escaped their clutches, did a lot of traveling, and you've ended up in the Nashville area. So can you talk a little bit about maybe the background of being a missionary? Like, what was it like to be like a pastor's kid, and how did that affect your kind of coming out of religion?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, coming out of religion had two different phases to it. Number one, coming out of my upbringing as a missionary kid and all that, in particular in the Mennonite faith, was, I would say, a fairly benign, fairly positive, fairly non-traumatic, just sort of like a gradual realization, you know what, I really don't believe this anymore. It really doesn't make sense. The whole thing that, God created people and probably 95% of them have all gone to hell just really didn't make much sense to me. So, for me, it just kind of involved a gradual process of leaving that and then realizing, holy cow, man, I'm starting from scratch in terms of what I believe. And it actually, what's really been important for me is kind of like figuring out, okay, how do I figure out what I do believe now? I know what I've left, just like many other atheists. We all know what we've stepped away from. Okay, where do we start from? Because we no longer have a book, chapter, verse, and all that. So where do we go from here? And that's kind of the path that I'm on.
Do you think for someone who was in the religious faith and was deeply in there, that it's very important for you to create your own community?
Yeah, I mean, number one, I realized that what I was raised on in terms of, that community, that whole support system was pretty much gone for me now. And I guess the process of where I am now, of having come out about 4 years ago and now living in a very conservative, very religious area in Christian County, Kentucky, nonetheless, pretty much gives me an appreciation for the experiences faced by those who are isolated in a very religious area. So kind of like what you're saying, finding community and finding your people and finding your tribe and the people that can, create your new social support system has become really important for me. And that's why it's been important to like get involved with organizations such as Sunday Assembly Nashville, which I had the privilege of being able to kind of like help get started back in, 2013. And also with Nashville Nuns Convention and NaNoCon, which has, like you said, is now in its third year. It's sort of like it's an opportunity for not only to get together and be around people who are kind of, cut from the same cloth as you, same tribe and all that, but, meet new people. It's kind of hard to do that. And what really kind of motivates me is when, we're at NaNoCon and somebody comes up to me and says, oh yeah, this is the first time that I've ever come out of, like to an event like this and met other secular people just like me. And just hearing those stories, man, it's what does it for me in terms of, motivating me to say, hey, this is something that's worth it, that this is something that people can come out and find people that they can finally connect with. So, yeah.
But do you live in Nashville now?
I do not. I live about an hour and 15 minutes north of town in in Christian County, Kentucky, and that's just kind of like a function of the dynamics that I am now divorced, and my two children live with their mom in Christian County. So it's sort of like a lot of my support is in Nashville, and I think I'll end up moving here eventually. And I happen to be in Nashville right now, but it's just the circumstances that. A part of my life is in a much smaller area in Kentucky, so I kind of have a feet in both worlds. Well, one foot in both worlds, so to speak.
Well, how did you end up in Kentucky since you were, you said last time you were on that you were in Italy kind of growing up in your missionary life?
Right. Yeah. So I was, like you said, I was raised a Mennonite kid in Italy, which is pacifist, and pretty much done a radical departure from that. Came to the States, went to college, and then 9/11 happened, and so I joined the army, and so I'm no longer living in a more pacifist-minded lifestyle. But the army is what brought me to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, which is what brought me to Christian County, and then put me within range of Nashville, and here we are. So.
That makes sense then. Just kind of wondering, yeah, how did
Still
you
there,
get
brother?
where you are? Yeah. I turned my
Okay.
audio off, so a little background noise going on. This is what happens in the glamorous Sunday afternoon podcast scene. What led you? I mean, there's one thing to say, hey, I don't believe in God. I'm an atheist in Christian County, Kentucky, which is great. But then kind of getting involved in a community and then deciding, like, what made you decide 3 years ago, hey, you know what we need in Nashville? We need a secular conference.
Yeah, well, the way that all came about is I was in touch with my friend Gayle Jordan, who is executive director of Recovering from Religion and also head of the Murfreesboro Freethinkers. And she wrote to me and a couple others in January of 2016 saying, hey, we have this book tour with David Silverman of American Atheists. He's coming to town promoting his book. Do you guys want to do something with it? And we said, well, I wrote back saying, yeah, heck yeah. Maybe we can, get a couple others together, some speakers, and kind of like make an afternoon thing out of it. Right. And so created like a Facebook event and just kind of, started spreading the word. And man, some friends, including Chris Watson of, fellow podcaster, started putting it in podcaster circles, and man, the word started getting around. Before you knew it, we had 100 people and more signing up for the Facebook event, and it's like, man, this, there's some interest to this, and not only just people here locally, but people from like multiple states surrounding, like Georgia, South Carolina, just like a 6-state region started, signing up for this, and so wow, it was really cool that to see that kind of interest. And so, I would have been happy at the time if we had had 200 people show up for the thing, delighted if we would have had 300. Well, man, 400 people showed up, and, it was just awesome. I mean, we didn't charge any kind of fee, it was just sort of like, hey, show up. And we had a couple sponsors, we were able to pay the bills and, not be in debt as a result of it. And I think everybody had a good time. So, we just decided, man, this is to be cool to do it, kind of like on an ongoing basis, and see how long we can go with it. How far we can get. And so, whereas the first time in 2016, it was something we kind of threw together on kind of fairly short notice within 7 weeks from the time that Gayle wrote us to the time that we actually had it in March of that year. So this time, we have a little bit more time to plan it. And man, I mean, I think the speakers, the workshops this year is just we're in so much a better situation in the sense that it's a lot more diversity of topics, diversity of speakers, just a lot of different perspectives. and a lot of other cool stuff too, such as, we're doing like we have comedy this year, we have music, we having several different panels, so it's going to be a lot of fun, and looking forward to it.
So what was it, I guess, like when you did year 2 and you had a little bit of time to plan? Mm-hmm. What happened with the venue leading up to the 2017 NaNoCon?
Yeah, and I apologize if I'm talking over you here. I can't always hear you sometimes, like your audio goes in and out. But yeah, so basically last year, basically around I think September, October. Go ahead.
No, I'm good. I'm just, yeah. My sound's on, but I'm just not interrupting.
Oh, okay. No, sorry about that. Yeah, so last year, man, we had a venue, like we had the first year we had at a high school, and we were thinking, okay, could we find a better venue, something like, I guess, like a conference center, something, I guess, a little bit more established that is more geared to doing events such as ours. But I'd asked the person that had previously coordinated that, hey, if you could you at least reserve the high school so we could have a backup. Well, man, we started asking around, and I think we toured 12 different high schools, had verbal commitments from 5 different principals. I had submitted contracts for 4, something like that. And man, as soon as they found out that we were, who we were, a secular organization, all these bizarre excuses started popping up, like, oh, well, we're having construction. Or one of them actually said, oh, yeah, we got a bad reference for you guys, so we're not gonna have you host you. And, and it was just completely bogus. And of course there was no bad reference, but we're kind of getting the runaround everywhere. And so we were 3 weeks out from the conference last year, and man, we didn't have a venue. We did not have a place to do this thing. And thankfully, it's actually a church hosted us kind of like last minute. They were great. It turned out to be a really good thing. We were able to have alcohol on premises, and they were just a pleasure to work with. So yeah, so it ended up being a good resolution to the thing. But being so close to convention time and not having a venue certainly caused me to lose a lot of sleep and waste a lot of time chasing leads on the venue. But thankfully this year. We have had our venue locked in for multiple months now, and it's a good situation. And we're actually going to be back at the high school we were at the first year, which is Glencliff High School in the southeast side of Nashville. And I tell you, they've been an absolute pleasure to work with, and they've just been really cool in terms of making sure that we're taken care of. And man, I would love it if we could do something to give back to them, and just show our appreciation to them for hosting us, because compared to the runaround that we got last year, like I said, they've been great. And it's kind of a unique situation there, because in the part of town that they're in, they have 44 countries represented in their student body, 33 languages spoken from what the principal told me. So, that's, obviously international experiences, and kids coming as immigrants or whatever to this country, something that's near and dear to my heart, but also something that has a lot of impact politically these days. And so if we can just, like I said, give back and show our appreciation there, I think it'd be a really cool thing if that could happen this year.
And what is it like to determine, I guess, when you're dealing with budgets, like what a price point would be for a conference? And by the way, real quick, Nashville Nuns is a 1-day conference, just to let people know. But anyway, how did you decide? Because I think it's $15 right now, right, for the conference?
Correct. Yeah, it's $15 right now, and on March 1st, so basically in a week or less than a week, it goes up to $20. And the way we priced it that way, I mean, the first year we were free, and just trying to encourage people to come out. And I think our thing is that we want to be a conference and an event that is accessible to somebody who is not a committed atheist or an activist in any way, not somebody who is going to drop, $200 to $300 to go to one of these major national organizations conferences. We want to be a place that is accessible just for somebody who is like, well, I'm not really religious myself and I don't go to church or whatever. And I'm not sure what this whole atheist thing is all about, but hey, it's $15. I'll go check it out. And that way they have a chance to meet other people and kind of, get an idea of what the community is all about, and hopefully meet other people that are like them, and that, get to hang out with other religious people. And so, yeah, we just want to be accessible. And then if people want to get more involved, then they can do so. You know what I mean? So we try to keep the price as low as possible, frankly. To have a full day of programming like we have, and all the speakers and all the workshops, $15 is incredibly cheap. It's the only reason we're able to do that and pay the bills is thanks to our sponsors, and thanks to basically the speakers that come are doing so completely without any kind of honorarium. I mean, we pay travel expenses for the ones that we invite, but I mean, everybody that's coming here is kind of like participants in building NaNoCon as an event. We consider them partners in our success. You know what I mean? Because we would never be able to afford bringing the kind of speakers and experience that we have if we had to pay them. They're getting paid elsewhere. So we really appreciate them being willing to come and essentially volunteer their time to reach this audience here in the Southeast, in the Bible Belt. You know what I mean? So,
well, since the conference isn't specifically aimed at atheists, do you try to reach out and find people who are maybe even religious but still believe in kind of secular values to come to the conference?
You're saying, do we try to reach out to whom?
I wonder if you can you find that audience? Like, how do you reach out to them? Because I mean, you're reaching out obviously to atheists through the speakers and through podcasts that might have you on or talking about this, but to reach that kind of maybe someone who's a little bit in the middle, maybe is just curious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, a lot of the outreach that we do right now is through like established groups such as, Tri-State Freethinkers is active in Cincinnati. Okay, so we reach out to them, and I'm sure within their membership they're going to have a full spectrum of people who are committed and involved and activists, and then they're going to have just some people that are kind of checking it out. But in terms of we really haven't done much by way of advertising, and so I think it's just by being accessible, and hopefully by increasing our YouTube presence and other ways like that people can find out about us. We do press releases and stuff like that, but advertising is something that, I think if we get volunteers to say, hey, this is something that I want to help out with, yeah, we can increase and start doing that sort of thing. But I mean, believe me, there's a lot of really good ideas that I think we can and should and will pursue. It's just a matter of kind of getting our feet on the ground and finding people who are, who basically are interested in coming forward and saying, hey, you know what, I can help you guys out with that. Because, just the core group of the organizers that we have, we're kind of maxed out right now. So and help us build it, help us reach out. We definitely would welcome it and appreciate it.
Well, what's the capacity at the high school? Like, how many people can you get in the building, and what is the status of ticket sales?
Okay, so the auditorium where we will be hosting some of the events, the capacity there is 400. And we're also going to be using the gym this year, which, like if we will have half the bleachers pulled there, it can accommodate, 500 to 600. And right now, the biggest creative challenge in a good sense that we have is finding a time to put, all the speakers and all the workshops, just because we have such an amazing variety of, topics and speakers and experiences and talent. So, we're going to be kind of putting speakers concurrently in both the workshop, in both the, the auditorium and the gymnasium, and just trying to find a place and a time for everybody to speak. Now, as far as the ticket sales right now, I think we are just under 200 right now, which is a little bit low compared to last year. But it's also on par in the sense that right around this time, 3 weeks out, is where ticket sales really picked up last year. So if you have heard of NaNoCon and you're thinking of coming, right now, this week is the perfect time to get your ticket, because not only is it a great time to make plans and make travel plans if you're coming from out of town, but for right now, our tickets are, like you said, only $15, and they will go up to $20. And also, if somebody wants to come, wants to participate, but the ticket price is a factor for them that might discourage them, you volunteer 2 hours. There's an option on Eventbrite that you say, I will commit to volunteering 2 hours, and then you can get in for free. So, a full day of programming for free, you can't beat that, and so we just want anybody who wants to be able to participate, and, we welcome everybody, so.
Okay, I'm going to have to let my cat out of my office. He's been clawing at the door for the last 5 minutes, so I'm going to ask a question, then I'm going to get this cat out of here.
No worries.
You actually answered this question before, but are there other ways to reach out if you do want to volunteer?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to...
You're fun, Soy. Go.
There's option there. And you can, if you go to Eventbrite, which is where our ticketing is done through, one of the options there is, okay, you can check, hey, I pay $15, or I'm a student, which is only $10, or there's also a free volunteer ticket with a 2-hour commitment. So you just check that, and then, our volunteers coordinator will get in touch with you, and, you can get a ticket just like by signing up that way, just like anybody else, but you also get to help out and, and just help build this event. There's plenty of people who pay the money to get a ticket and then volunteer on top of that just because they want to help out, and we appreciate that immensely. But yeah, there is an opportunity for people just to come as volunteers. So that's, we wouldn't be able to do this without volunteers. It's such a huge help, and it really, I think, adds to the experience of being able to participate and build, like, hey, I'm a participant, I'm a stakeholder in creating this event. So I think that's something that people get a lot out of.
Yeah, it does seem like anytime I've been to a conference, it really is about getting that secular community together. And on top of that, you get the online community where people, I mostly talk with people online, and to actually get an opportunity to see them all in person is great. So who came up with this year's theme, consensual? What is this all about?
Oh, yeah. So the theme is actually kind of the brainchild of Elliot Cantor, who is the partner of Gayle Jordan. Both of them are, on the leadership for NaNoCon and co-founders. And for anybody who knows Elliot, he has been one of the people in the secular community that anytime there is an allegation that somebody has sexually harassed or taken advantage or had any kind of impropriety, especially of a sexual nature, he's usually the person that investigates that, and he's had experience in that area in the corporate world, and has just done, I think, thousands of investigations within the secular community, including some of the more high-profile cases. Some of which we've heard about recently, and so that's really been something that has been important to him, and that he's had a real passion for, is essentially for us in the secular and atheist communities, cleaning up our own backyard, in the sense that making a really clear stand that we are not going to tolerate and are not going to just let go a lot of these instances of very, pretty serious allegations of people taking advantage or not respecting participants' bodily autonomy. And a lot of these conferences, like allegations of, groping or taking advantage that, just really help to, they poison the environment and make people not feel safe. And so we just want to take a firm stand against that in Nashville, at NaNoCon, and say that we want to create a culture and in an environment where anybody can feel safe, and kind of educate ourselves and our community about, what consent is all about, what clear boundaries are all about, and create a culture of sex positivity where we respect each other's desires and autonomy, and we do value a positive approach to sex. And that is something that we should talk about and be open about. And once you establish that, then it's so much more fun, and we, so I guess to answer your question, that's the idea kind of came from Elliot, but it's something that he has, it's really received a big response from within the community. And I'm just personally delighted with the variety of voices and perspectives that are going to be shared about that, not only from organizations such as Sex Positive Nashville, but from on one hand, somebody like Gayle Jordan, who is Gayle's daughter, who has experience as a performer and a dancer in Las Vegas, talking about her perspective, to anything from men and their response to the Me Too movement, and accepting some of the very poor choices and unethical behavior that we have exhibited as men. Okay, and how do we cope with that, and how do we essentially clean up our own act as men? How do we respond to that? And it's sort of like, if to make an allegory to racism, if racism is essentially, in the majority of cases, a white people's problem, that we need to fix our own response to minority communities. And so to say that in the same way, sexism and misogyny is a men's problem. If we need to get ourselves right, then some of those workshops are intended to address that. And so we want to take a very clear stance on that. And then there's other workshops and perspectives, such as Dr. Daryl Ray from Recovering from Religion. He's going to be coming out and talking about other topics, such as fetishes, and other a sexual therapist in the area is going to be talking about finding your own personal kinks, and kind of embracing and exploring that whole side of sexuality. So bottom line is, it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're really looking forward to the diversity of perspectives. And I think somebody who's coming as a participant is going to have a whole variety of perspectives and interesting topics to look into. And check out the website, because there's like 14 different speakers right now, and 15, actually more than that, 16 different workshops and panels. So it's a whole lot going on, and I think people will definitely find something that of interest.
Well, what's the conference format? Because from what I recall, last year, we kind of got together in the morning, but we did end up shutting down around 5 or so. But it seems like the party is going to keep going this year.
Yeah, we've been kind of trying different formats, and what we're going to do this year is we are opening the doors at 8:30, and the conference is going to kick off at 9:30 with workshops starting at 10. And so the workshops in the morning are going to go 2 back-to-back, so people have a chance to get to as many of their favorites as possible. Then we're going to have a lunch break, another workshop in the afternoon, and then around 1:30, as of right now, the schedule, then we're going to start speakers. Then we're going to have a kind of like a keynote event around 5:30 with Matt Dillahunty, and he's going to be doing his like a magic and skepticism show. And there's going to be a few other things like a Q&A involving with that I think is going to be really interesting and really pertinent. And then we're going to have the difference between, like you're saying, last year and this year is that then we're going to have a meal, like a pizza party and ice cream social right there on the campus together. So just kind of like a very informal, homey way of just hanging out and having fun and sharing some food. And the donations that people give for the food, for the pizza and ice cream and so forth, anything that we get coming in above the expenses, we're going to donate to the high school. So that's our intention for this year, is to give to, like I said, the PTA there at the high school, and kind of do it like an atheists giving back type of a thing. But then after that, after the dinner at 7:30, we're going to have a consensual all-stars kind of variety, fun event on stage with some comedians, several musical acts, that are going to be a lot of fun. And so while that's going on in our auditorium, we'll have several options just for people to hang out. And, people will have had information and content thrown at them all day. So now is our chance to just kind of kick back and let our hair down a little bit. And as soon as that's done, when the conference wraps up at 8:30, then right next door, there's a pretty cool place called Plaza Mariachi, which is a South American themed mall where we're going to have a restaurant where, of course, there we can have alcohol, we can drink, hang out. And anybody who's been there knows it's a really cool place. There's dancing on site. There's like an arcade, like a games arcade right there. So I think it's going to be something for everybody. That, it's always been the kind of like a hope of mine and an intention to give people a chance to hang out and have like an after party of sorts. And so I think this is going to be a fun way to do it this year. And anybody who's coming in from out of town, also right there at the hotel where we have a block rate at the Embassy Suites, there's also a bar there. So, anybody who's camping out in town at the hotel can take the party back there and, continue hanging out there in the bar. And it's going to be kind of like, start in the morning and hang out through the evening. And I hope for especially those who are coming in from out of town that this is a way that you can not only maximize your evening at the con, but also take in a little bit of Nashville, have fun, and get to hang out and chill with other heathens. So.
And an important Jeannie who's in the chat room 101. When you're at a conference, everybody, make sure to clean up after yourself, especially we're, at high school. We want to leave a good impression. So, yeah, take care of clean up after yourself. She did ask in the ticket option if there's an option to actually buy a ticket for somebody else, for somebody who can't make it or wants to buy a ticket or someone who can't afford it. Is that an option?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't have an option. Like, we don't do anything like VIP tickets. At least we're not this year, or like, buying a ticket at a $40 level or $100 level. I've thought about that, but I mean, if somebody wants to pay it forward and buy a ticket for somebody else, the best way to do it is on our support page. There is a way to donate via PayPal, and that is fantastic because that money just goes directly into being able to make the conference affordable for somebody else. And like you're saying, anybody who wants to is able to come as a volunteer, and the way we're able to do that is through our sponsors and through people's donations. So that's really huge, and we appreciate that immensely. So
I think you mentioned this before, but are the workshops actually going to be repeated? Because I know for last year there was like 5 or 6 options for each session, and you're like, man, I can't see everything, but you're able to see a decent amount as the day progressed.
Yeah, in the morning, the workshops are going to be repeated twice. And, it's always the creative challenge as an organizer to make sure that people can get to as many of them as possible. And I've pretty much taken a fairly open approach to the workshops, that if somebody has a workshop, as long as they fill out the form to, we have a lot of questions and it takes a little bit of time. So if somebody's willing to go through all the hassle of filling out the form, then, we'll give you a platform, which means that we don't turn a whole lot of people away. We want to be able to kind of give a boost and a platform to somebody who's an up and comer, which means that we end up with a lot of workshops. So, and like you said, there's a lot of great topics. So short of really becoming a 2-day event, a multi-day event, and then, being able to have a little bit more time or offer fewer workshops at the same time, we really have no way of doing it. So I guess it's just sort of like, you have to pick the best ones that you like the best, and, come back next year and catch the rest. It's sort of like, we're doing that the best that we can, but while at the same time trying to give an opportunity to as many as want to come out. So.
And so I hear there's going to be a podcaster panel. Oh, I already mentioned that. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and I hear we got this guest host coming out of Atlanta who's going to rock it. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun.
Well, I reached out because I heard that Jen Aldridge, who does the Not Another Atheist podcast, that she was moderating. So I reached out to her thinking, well, maybe I can actually be on, because I was on one of the panels last year. And then she's like, well, actually, I'm just doing it. If you want to moderate, go ahead. I'm like, I like the way this works. It's kind of like, oh, you want to do something? All right, go for it. Come up with something. And, now I get to come up with, some questions. Gosh, asking questions, I'm just not used to that. It's so outside of my format. But yeah, I believe they're going to be two, right? Two podcasting panels.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys can do that however you want in terms of, either having the same panel both times or kind of rotating the panelists. I mean, it's really kind of cool in the sense that we have a lot of people participating this year who are going to be panelists. I mean, of course, Callie Wright and Celeste Dreyer being, they're coming and participating and are both, prominent podcasters. So it's type of thing that, they aren't even going to be on the panel this year. I think they're getting married the next day. So they got bigger things to think about, apparently. But, certainly that's very exciting. So, you guys can run it any way you want it. And you can do two. You can do more than two if you like. It's up to you.
Controlling podcasters. Yeah, the thing about doing a podcasting panel is you kind of just maybe get to ask one question and then they go. Because I think it's, like 45, 50 minutes for a session. Yeah, I think we're going to be fine. Plus, the audience was like half podcasters, too. And they're asking a bunch of questions. We're like, we've never heard of this thing you're talking about. All the fun business side of it.
Right, yeah.
Is it a conscious decision to try to have as diverse a lineup of speakers and guests as you can have?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's I feel like we have a fairly decent lineup in terms of diversity, in terms of difference of perspectives. I mean, right now, in terms of the workshops, I would still say, though, that our percentage of speakers to females, a 2-to-1 ratio. And so we've, definitely gone out and encouraged people to participate, especially women voices and perspectives. And same thing for, non-male, non-white, non-cisgendered, just kind of like encouraging a diversity of people to apply or to, to present workshops that, I feel that we do have, I think, a good diversity, but it's sort of like we can always welcome more. And I think anybody who this year or in the future who wants to present or give a speech or give a workshop and has a different perspective, has a, something that they would like to put in front of people, man, please send us a, just write us from the website. There's a contact form, and, we can send you the, the proposal form to fill out, and we'd love to hear from you. It's the type of thing that if of somebody that you would like to recommend, please, let us know. I mean, we'd love to have them. And right now, our biggest is that most presenters are local to this area, in the sense that, we are not flying people in from out of town. We just don't have the budget for that, unfortunately. But if somebody who is willing to come and, is willing to drive or whatever, right now we can reimburse up to $100 for like travel costs, and anything beyond that, maybe we'll see if we can work something out. So that's our biggest limitation, is that a lot of times, a lot of these presenters are essentially coming partially on their own dime, and so, but if you want to come and you want to present, we're happy to do everything we can to accommodate you, because, yeah, I mean, the more the merrier.
Do you feel like it was a coup for you to be able to get the 2-for-1 special on the Hiltons? Because you have Kelly speaking, and dang, her dad, I can't remember his name, but he's on the list somewhere. Oh, Jim,
yeah.
From the Tri-State Freethinkers?
Tri-State Freethinkers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, those guys are are just amazing. I mean, anybody who's aware of Jim Hilton and Jen Scott and everything that's going on up there at the Tri-State Freethinkers, I mean, knows that those guys are phenomenal. You know, and Jim is now working full time with American Atheists, and Kelly, his daughter, is just, you know, absolutely a force to be reckoned with in terms of, you know, she's speaking at major conventions. I think she's speaking at the AA conference in Oklahoma City coming up, you know, and so, man, you know, they've been supporters of NaNoCon and just been huge from day one. So we are honored that they, you know, are coming back, and, you know, we're delighted to have them. And yeah, they've referred us to other people.
Yeah, I believe
them close to us. Go ahead.
I believe Kelly's been, she spoke, I think, at a Planned Parenthood rally. I know she talked at last year's, and she was 12. Now she's 13. So, you know, she's a seasoned speaking veteran, but yeah, it's good. It's definitely cool to see the connection there. And I see you, so you got Mandisa Thomas and Monica Burns, a couple of Black non-believers are going to be there as well.
Yeah, I mean, Mandisa, you know, she was just amazing. Last year came out and brought a bunch of people with her. And then this year I asked her, like, who else would you recommend? And she recommended a bunch of different people that unfortunately had different scheduling commitments and things like that, you know, such as, you know, Daryl Smith and Jeremiah Camara and other people out of Atlanta who, you know, we've reached out to that I think we would love for them to be able to come out in the future. It just hasn't worked out this year. Yeah, no, she put us in touch with Monica Burns from Louisville, and so we're excited to have her come down, and she's going to be speaking as well. And so, yeah, you know, we just looking forward to have her back, and that's super cool. She's always done really well. She's, you know, she's phenomenal in terms of being at a lot of the different conferences and representing for Black non-believers and just being visible and an outreach for that organization. So, you know, we couldn't be happier to have her back.
Yeah, I do want to show off that I am wearing my Black non-believer shirt. For the YouTube people, you can see it elsewhere you can't. But if you want a Black non-believer shirt, they are not set on a particular color, so you can get pretty much any color t-shirt you want. That's pretty smart marketing right there. So is Gayle Jordan, she, of course, is involved in this conference, executive director, Recovering from Religion. Is she currently running for office?
Yes, she is. In fact, you show off your shirt, I'll show off mine. I'm sporting my Gayle Jordan State Senate. And, you know, she was our host and MC last year. And like you mentioned, she is running for a second time into the state of Tennessee for a special election that the election is going to be on March 13th. So in other words, the Tuesday right before NaNoCon. So yeah, we're really happy for her, and she is doing amazing things in terms of just being out there, you know, openly running as a secular person in the state of Tennessee, which is a big deal, and being a fantastic representative of the, you know, classy and principled and tough, but also compassionate person that she is. She's representing our community really well, and we could not be happier for her. And she's, you know, going up against a very tough, very well-funded opponent in the sense that, you know, he is a millionaire and spending like all kinds of money of his own money on the campaign. And, you know, a lot of her support in terms of financially is coming from us, you know, in the local and national secular community. And I think she's doing a phenomenal job of not only getting out there and meeting and listening to the needs of a very diverse group of people, but yeah, you know, we could not be more proud of her and what she's doing, and we certainly wish her the best. And if anybody wants to reach out and find out more about what she's doing, yeah, you know, Gayle Jordan for Senate 14, I think is her website. Just do a search and it'll pop right up. So
excellent. Yeah, it's good to hear, because sometimes we talk about these events and go, well, it's just we get to hang out and be who we are, and that's great. But there's also, yeah, getting involved in the community. I'm in the state of Georgia, and there was just this law that I believe was passed that was basically not letting LGBT people adopt kids. And one of the defenses for the LGBT community. Adopting was a state senator said, well, they believe in God too, so they're good. And that automatically is like, great. So you say, hey, this minority group is cool, but then you throw another minority group under the bus. And it's like, well, if you get under this umbrella, we'll accept you, but not the other. And just to be out there, like Aaron Ra's running in Texas. And I know there are a few others in the country that have, I can't remember the guy's name in California, who's actually running as a Satanist, which I thought was just awesome, because Satanists are our friends, and it's good to hear that's there. So we are going to see the magic side of Matt Dillahunty, because I believe he just he spoke last year, because he was there at the conference last year.
Yeah, last year he kind of spoke a little bit more about his personal experience, or his experience, just some reflections as a speaker within the atheist community in terms of things that we can work on, and he really encouraged people to reach out, to get involved, to find ways of plugging in and building your local support locally where you live, and not worrying so much about the divisions or trying to judge or kind of cut people down because, oh, well, they aren't exactly like me. So in other words, trying to be more of a unifying force within the secular community, rather than people sometimes focus too much on those are the differences that we have within the community. So I think his points were well taken, and we are very fortunate that he's going to be coming back this year. But like you're saying, he's more going to be bringing a different skill set. He's been practicing magic and kind of like from an entertainment perspective for years, and he's very accomplished with that. And I mean, it's just amazing how generous he is with his time, to where, afterwards, when he was here last year, he was just hanging out with a bunch of us in a restaurant afterwards for like an hour, just doing magic tricks. And it was just really cool. It was a great, very generous of him, and it certainly brought us a lot closer together of having had that experience in the city of Clarksville, where I was afterwards. And so, yeah, he's going to be bringing his performance and magic skills to the stage at NaNoCon, and if I understand it correctly, he's going to be kind of like giving a sneak preview of a show that he's going to be taking on the road with magic and skepticism. So we're really fortunate that he's bringing that show, and I think he's specifically driving his truck up from Texas so that he can bring bigger props in a better part of his show than he would be if he were flying. So I mean, he's just being really extremely generous with his time and his talents, and it's going to be a fun thing because not only is it going to be kind of like a closing event for the conference itself, but we are also, for the first time this year, having a Camp Quest day camp for kids, to where parents can come and leave their kids with the Camp Quest day camp, and then that is going to wrap up right at 5:30, right around the time when his magic show is supposed to start. So hopefully parents, if they decide to bring their kids, they can all get together afterwards and go catch Matt Dillahunty's magic show together. So we're looking forward to that.
So are there any like pre and post official events for like the Friday and Sunday, or is it you mainly focusing on just the Saturday events?
Yeah, I mean, there's always satellite events going on, the day before, but those are more like for planners and a little bit more by invitation. There's going to be a wedding on Sunday that I think is by invitation as well. There's a few other events that hey, I have friends coming into town, so we're going to get together and work on different things. Now, last year we had Matt generously agreed to do a debate that the following Sunday in Clarksville. We're seeing if there's a possibility of lining something like that up the next day this year as well. In other words, the Sunday, but details aren't confirmed on that yet. So I'm not going to make any announcements until we have more information to put out on that. But again, stay tuned at nanocon.info, our website, and find more updates there.
Is there a place where people can go who are going to the conference to maybe get in touch with each other about meeting before, after, or perhaps, driving together to the event, that kind of thing? Or just where people can connect?
Yeah, we don't have anything like that right now in terms of like a comment board or like a. I think that's a great idea, and it's something that I think we could do something like that, like either with certain apps like Discuss. I've talked with our webmaster of putting like a comment section in each workshop's specific page so that people who, let's say, go hear Anthony Magnabosco, as an example, can say, oh, yeah, this is what I loved, or wasn't that cool, or this is a question that I had, or what about that? But I think like what you're saying of having like a kind of like a bulletin board or, I don't know what you would call it, but like a comment section where people can coordinate and meet each other afterwards, or even planning ahead of time for their participation in NaNoCon. That would be really cool. I think that's a great idea. So, yeah, man, that's really good, Zach. And maybe we can put that in place, and I'll get back with you and let you know when we're able to put that on the website. So,
Well, there is, of course, the Facebook page. You can
yes.
go there. And of course, if you're a Twitter person, you can go. Nashville Nuns is the Twitter account, and then there's I posted a NaNoCon 2018 hashtag. Maybe there's a different hashtag there. All these conferences with their funky, spelling or like their capitalization, but when it comes to hashtag, doesn't matter uppercase, lowercase. But
Right.
yeah, someone who, I mean, for me, it's easy in Nashville because my parents live there, so I know I have a place to stay. It's pretty straightforward. But I know for other people who are coming in from out of town, because I know a lot of people are coming in. I'm pretty sure Heretic Woman from Canada is coming in. I know, of course, Bobby and Ashley,
Yeah.
because Bobby's actually the guy who's marrying Callie and Silas on Sunday. So they're coming all the way from South Georgia, and yeah, it's more of a regional thing than you think, because you go, oh, it's just local, but it really is not.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we've always, just from the get-go, we've had the good fortune of having people really coming from like a 6-state region here in the Southeast. But like you're saying, people from, Canada and all over the map, that make the trip down here. So that's really cool. And yeah, I mean, you're totally right. It's a great way to reach out and meet others, and social media, like our Facebook page, is a great way to do that. And I haven't seen a whole lot of traffic on Twitter. Like stuff that we post on Twitter doesn't get a whole lot of response. So that I think it brings to a good point that as a participant, as a listener of the podcast, you can have a role in helping spread the word, because it's sort of like, I know a few people, and there's a few people that, the group of people that like our social media, but you as a listener know a lot more. So if you spread the word or say, hey, I'm participating in NaNoCon, or, we have a frame for profile pictures that we're about to put up, to help spread awareness, that will be loaded up on our Facebook page soon. If you do that, you're participating in helping to create the success and build the community of this event, and attracting the type of people that you would like to hang out with, or if you guys are doing the, podcasters panel, man, you're listening to this podcast and you want to come hang out with, Zach and other people like him, man, spread the word and come on, hang out. It's a great place to do it. So
Get thee to Nashville. You can get us all. You can get us all at once.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean,
and you mentioned, if I can throw one more thing in there, you'd mentioned, people coming in that might need a place to stay. We do have block rates at the Embassy Suites, and more information on that on the website. However, if somebody is coming in from out of town and wants a place to stay, we do have somebody who is kind of coordinating, being able to stay in the homes of people who are local to Nashville here. And in fact, I'm at their house right now. Is the coordinator for that, and so she has volunteered to put people in touch with people who have a spare bedroom and stuff like that. So yeah, go to the website, and if we can, we'll put you in touch with somebody who can accommodate you. So
okay, so who was the volunteer again? I think I missed the name.
yeah, it's Georgia, but the way to do that is when you sign up on Eventbrite for your tickets, there's a question on Eventbrite that says, hey, would you like a place to stay? And if you check yes on that, we have somebody who's going through the answers that people give to put you in touch with somebody who can help you get situated. But I mean, again, if you want to, just email us or use the contact form on the website, or just sign up. And since we're only 3 weeks out, do so sooner rather than later, so we have time to get you put in touch with somebody.
Yeah, I like that you're doing that, because one thing, I mean, I've lived in Nashville for part of my life, and man, this city is freaking growing, and hotels aren't cheap
Mm-hmm.
there. That's what
Right.
word I've gotten from people who have to stay there. You don't always have the advantage of having family in town, so it's cool to have. And then that's more of that community gathering. Like, I think Gayle had
Yeah.
Matt Dillahunty staying there, so it was like, everybody was kind of getting together, and that was another way to kind of get to know people in a more informal way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the best part. Now, I have to ask, this is a question I try to ask every week, or at least my listeners in the chat try to have me ask. Do you have, off the top of your head, and I didn't ask you this in advance, this is I'll put you on the spot. Do you have a joke that you like?
Oh my goodness. Yes, I do. But again, they're the types of jokes that I would tell my kids. So
Oh, that's
it's not
okay.
going to be.
We had a joke, I think, for a 3-year-old a couple weeks ago. So it happens.
Okay.
People have kids. Yeah, it's a totally
Yeah.
different level than adult. But go for it. Come on, we want to hear this.
All right. Well, actually, okay, I'll do a little bit different since Nashville has a little bit of a reputation. I'll give you this one. So, how many hipsters does it take to change a light bulb?
Oh, how many?
Well, it's a really obscure number. You probably never heard of it.
Yeah, speaking of hipsters, as it's known, and man, I've had Patrick on twice. I haven't had a beer either time, but timing just didn't work out. Nashville's really good with breweries, so I'm going to be there on Friday, and we'll see if I can visit, because there are requirements. Every time I go to Nashville, I got to get hot chicken, and then of course I got to go at least to a local liquor store and pick up some of the local beer, just because there's so much good stuff. So do you have anything else you want to cover before letting everybody know where to find you? All the links will be available in the show notes. But anything else you want to bring up, and then of course tell people where to find you and your conference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are NashvilleNuns.com, and that's spelled Nashville, NONES.com. And if it's easier, you can also go to nanocon.info, which will take you to the exact same spot. And yeah, really check out the webpage. I mean, we have had amazing support by my friend Ross Llewellyn from Atlanta, who has done an amazing job, donated all kinds of his time to making this website just a fantastic showcase of the diversity and the all kinds of different topics that we are going to have, and relating, and putting that information out there. So please take advantage of this, of the resources that he's created, and check out the website. Definitely looking forward to it.
Check out the website, and if you're anywhere in the region, there's really no reason for you not to go. It's an interesting time for it. The American Atheists love to do theirs on like Easter weekend, and of course you're doing it on literally, it's going to be St. Patrick's Day, so about half the crowd might be wearing a little bit of green at some point. But
yeah, absolutely.
Without being at some kind of parade and crazy crowds, go to this thing. It's going to be a comfortable crowd. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we picked this time of year not only because it just so happens that that's when our first event was in March of 2016, but it just so works out that we try to be right between the weekend of like the spring break for colleges, which is beforehand, and then the spring break for local public schools, which is afterwards. So hopefully, we are able to get as much participation as possible from local universities and college students, because they will hopefully have just come back from spring break and midterms are over, so they can come out and hang out. But we get to kick off the conference and convention season in March, and come hang out. It's a good time.
And it's good to see, I think people will hear about the bigger conferences like American Atheists. This is a smaller conference, although really it's not that small compared to like ReasonCon. I feel like it's a fairly big, and it's probably has fewer people. But yeah, support these kind of conferences because it's important to get together. So once again, I would like to thank Patrick for being on today. And if you want to support this show, be like Bobby, Hugh, Teody, and Jeannie, and go to patreon.com/Zachrilege, ZACHRILEGE. Follow me on Twitter and like the Zachrilege Cast page on Facebook, and send all hate mail, love mail, guests, whatever, jokes to zacrilege.cast@gmail.com. Patrick, again, has been great. I'm looking forward to the facial hair you'll have for next year's show.
That's right.
So as the conclusion, let's try something different this week. So find an atheist friend in your area and meet for coffee. Let's take things from 2D to 3D, make a connection, and you'll feel less alone the next time your state senate decides to put up a God we trust, because that totes blocks bullets, y'all. Thank you, and love all y'all, and adios.